Kacper here. It is our fifth debate, and today we will talk about ability to vote. Also, if you could subscribe, like, or comment, I would be genuinely grateful. It really motivates us to do more. Anyway, enjoy the video and have a great day. Thank you. Okay, let's start. I would like to welcome the Prime Minister of the opening government. You have 5 minutes to complete your speech.
Okay, thank you. 1 second. I'll do a timer. Okay, 1, 2, 3. First of all, it's important to understand the status quo we live in because we have two troubles in it, and we extremely need this policy just to live better and understand that our future is much better than it could be. First one, people don't vote right now. Like we understand there are a lot of groups in our society who prefer don't to vote. They understand that their vote is just okay, and they suppose they are apolitical or they have different reasons. For example, they don't think like they will be living in this country in 5 years and something like that, and that's the reason they don't feel like doing it, but still they have right to vote because they are like major people and it's enough to them just to vote. And the second problem we live in is that people often vote for bad candidates or populists that are just saying them that okay, there are a lot of promises from them. For example, they promise to reduce taxes or give everybody a vaccine or stop COVID pandemic or war or something like that, which also often isn't kept because those people just promising a lot but doing actually nothing. And it's very bad because these people isn't something not important for us because very often it's just our presidents, our politicians, and we as society doesn't feel like it's something good for us because it's strongly affecting us in a negative way. And for that reason that people just believe these people. They don't have political awareness, they don't understand how taxes works, and they simply believe that one day it will be a person that saves their life for doing actually nothing and just voting for them. And actually, it's also cases of corruption where people choose actually bad politicians to rule their country, and it's getting bad. And it's getting bad. So this policy would allow us to learn people fact checking and doing how it's going on because they will know how the state works. Because when you're like a citizen of any country, you have obligatory to know about how it's going because the country has a lot of obligatories to you, and you have to do the opposite because it's like the way this relations works. And for that reason, this exam would also let people to understand how is it going, the history of their state, the past of every politician, because they will be able to fact check and understand maybe this candidate isn't so good to my country because it was like cancel culture with him 5 years before, and I didn't want it to do something like that again. And also, we understand that okay, those people will understand the way taxes works, the way actually the state works, and after that they won't be deceived so easily because in status quo I'm just 18 years old, and for the state it's actually enough to let me vote and do so important decisions. But we understand as a government side that it doesn't work in that way because in case any person isn't into politics and this person isn't really interested in the country becoming better because, for example, I'm old women, and I understand that maybe I just want to be conservative because the way I lived all the years before is just okay for me, and I didn't have an exam. I just have the feeling inside of me that maybe this good man will let me to live my life in the same way I live, and it also will allow me to get more taxes and to get payment and just to live my life as it is. But for example, another group won't be satisfied with this reason. And also, when it comes to this problem, it's everything. Okay, it's actually very important to say that when we can learn about it more, we can also get interested into it. Because when we, for example, suggest students at schools and universities to study this as a subject, because political awareness is important and it's actually useful. It's not something limited from the real life, because it's the state you live in. Because, for example, when you don't understand how politics works, you also don't really interested in it until it gets better, until, for example, abortions is forbidden and we cannot do something with it because our politicians are strongly convinced it should work in this way. But we, as people who let our politicians to think this way, who elected those politicians, should be worried about before it happens, before something bad happens. And actually, when it's something you can easily get into, when you have, for example, a teacher in every school who is ready to tell like how the state works, the history of politics or something like that, we also understand that there will be more good candidates in the future, because people, as from the childhood, will be easily get into it, and due to that will be interested in getting better and doing this state better. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I would like to welcome the leader of the opposition. You have 5 minutes to complete your speech.
Okay, thanks. So I would like to start off on the fact that not everyone being allowed to vote is essentially against the basic concept of democracy, which was made and created in ancient times to really give power to, or give the power for the people to decide in which direction their country goes. Essentially, limiting that right would essentially go against that basic concept. Democracy was created around the fact that essentially, well, modern democracy as we use it now was created historically through the fact that in the past people were limited. They weren't not everyone were allowed to vote, and limiting this in one way or another is limiting the functionality of democracy. This essentially would stopping, well, less educated common people from voting, which essentially this motion wants to achieve, might essentially turn those people to violence because they still, even though they're not really educated politically, they still want some things. They still want to they still want to be heard. They still want to have they still want to decide in which direction their country goes in. And this essentially, if we look at this from a historical perspective, we have seen the reforms in the 19th century, where many European countries went through many reforms to get to the government type that the European countries have. And a lot of countries voting did exist, and political parties did exist. It's just that only a certain group of people were allowed to vote, usually landowners, educated people. I know this was all good and well, but the problem is that what this motion is doing, it's kind of trying to achieve the same thing, limiting the amount of people who can vote to only highly educated individuals. Now, this is a problem because the basic concept of democracy is that everyone can vote, meaning that your country stops being a democracy. And essentially, usually when people aren't allowed to be heard, they usually use other means, like, for example, violence or rebellion. And this essentially causes political instability. Because it's not like these uneducated people don't care about their country. The fact that they don't understand certain concepts, or essentially aren't very politically educated, right? They don't really know how the government works, for example, doesn't really mean that they can't decide what direction their country is going, because otherwise you're not living in a democracy anymore, because not everyone has the right to vote on certain decisions. And essentially, yeah, if we look back at history, usually that modern democracy were defined by a series of turmoils in the 19th century, which essentially were caused by the fact that certain amounts of people were denied the right to vote. So, and that's my main point, that essentially not everyone being allowed to vote is essentially going against basic democratic concepts. And that's it for my speech. Thank you.
Thank you for your speech. Now I would like to welcome the Deputy of the Prime Minister from the opening government. You have 5 minutes to complete your speech.
Well then, one, two, three. As my teammate said, we can also do something like engage people who are at school to study completely everybody, because for now our education is still not for everybody, but we make it better, we make it more possible for everybody, if not depending on what way this person live, to what class it belong to. We try to make it better, and for that reason we strongly believe that in case we really support this motion and we engage this policy in our everyday life, we will make it possible for completely everybody to be able to pass this exam, to be able to do it. But even if we don't succeed in it, even if there will be less people that will be passing this exam and deciding the destiny of our country, we still believe this is small number of people will make our life better, and maybe in a perspective the performance of the state will actually let us to give this education completely to everybody, because these educated people will be also in like will be also have this ability to do better decisions. Because actually, when our people who elect other politicians, they understand that they can do something. They understand they are actually politically aware of everything that is going on. They will be choosing best candidates, because the quality of these candidates will also be better in case candidates understand that everybody is taught how to vote, in case everybody understood what populism is. And it's actually becomes very difficult to deceive these people, because our people, our citizens, just understand how it's working, and it motivates politicians to do a better job because they're interested in becoming a winner. Which is also important, the presumption that village person has obtained required knowledge and experience to choose to choose good candidates isn't enough, because it's the same as to say that in case you're of full age, it's okay to give you a driving license just for nothing, because you are mature, and that's enough for us as a state to understand that you have enough knowledge to do anything. Because I actually understand that in case you're just 18 years old, it doesn't mean that you're a qualified person to do so important decisions. And for this reason, we also understand that this if you don't learn it, you don't know how to do it, and you have this motivation to develop yourself, even in case you're poor and you cannot afford uh, doing something with the courses, with the tutors. You still can do it on your own, because we have internet resources which can also be taught how to do best voice or something like that. And actually, the main criteria of opposition is just being uh, justification. Okay, it's justice, and everything we have for this is just that. Okay, in status quo there isn't something fully justified in this way, because for this moment in status quo there is a function that we have birth lottery, and not everybody is in the same conditions as someone else, because it's a world in which we live. But actually this policy lets us to deserve for a better life, because when person is educated, this person can help others to be educated as well, because it's like the main uh, point of being a politician, to let everybody to get a better life, because this person is a citizen of your state. And actually, because of that, our team has also showed that in case we have better politics, in case we provide schools with political education, we also have more people who are interested in politics, not only in case of getting money because you're corrupted, but also in making others' lives better for the reason you're interested in it, for the reason you understood it's your talent to care about others, to manage things in this way and operate the state in this way. And for that reason, we strongly considered that it's actually a good way to let people get into politics without like motivational videos, which doesn't really work because it's like it has only a target group which is affected, but actually it doesn't have a huge impact on other people, because when we make something compulsory, we motivate people to get more into it, to spread this knowledge and considering this knowledge actually essential. And for that reason we understand that maybe it's not so democratic because not everybody is allowed to vote in this way, but it actually brings us to better decisions. And also, our benefits are much stronger than the benefits of opposition side, which also told that it's just
Thank you for your speech. Now I would like to welcome the deputy of the leader of the opposition. You have 5 minutes to complete your speech.
All right. So I'm here to add up on what my fellow president said, and he basically talked about the importance of how it is really important to maintain a stable political system, and people taking the violent approach or causing revolutions is definitely not going to help us. And most definitely, creating these exams will cause such revolutions because people really do not like the power being taken from them. And if it's a democratic system, the power does rightfully belong to the people itself. So we cannot decide for them to take this exam to appoint who they want to, uh, because in many ways in history we've learned not to do this and how revolutions can hurt us. A really good example of this can be of the Islamic Empire, like when it started basically. uh, there were four major caliphs, and around the third one, uh, basically the system was so that there was a council of people that sat and they appointed the ruler rather than majority of the people's vote or something around that. It was basically a form of democracy, except only a handful of people could vote. What this caused was murder of the monarchs that were appointed, and this was by none other than revolutions caused by the people. So not only are we endangering the people that are appointed by these, let's say, qualified people, but we are also causing political instability, which will not only cause our country to weaken, our economy to become less stable, but also make us fragile in front of other countries. Uh, this is the 21st century, so we not expect any war like situations, but we can never take any risks, and we must do whatever we can to stay strong and stay stable. Most definitely. And another thing I need to, like, one more point that I want to add on to this is that the fact that this essentially allows one more way for certain corrupt politicians to rig the elections. Well, let me elaborate how exactly could this be done. So let's say that there are new members of newly 18 years old adults coming into the society. Now, they will have different views. They will have different views in the existing population. So let's say the government holds an agenda to basically make sure that these young people, they are not capable of voting, and they hold an exam which is completely unrealistic. They can essentially rig the exam like this and cause only the people who already were able to vote to basically have the power to vote, essentially robbing these young people who have recently become part of the society as working adults, or as adults capable of making decisions. We're robbing them of their opportunity to decide for decide what direction their country is going in. I feel like it's basically, I get it that it's to reduce corruption rather than basically reduce the amount of decisions that people might make, rash decisions or something like that. It's to reduce those, but it actually causes it opens up more ways for corruption to happen. It opens up more ways for people to be manipulated. Uh, that's about it for my speech.
Thank you for your speech. Now I would like to welcome the whip speaker of the government. You have 5 minutes to complete your speech.
Okay, just 1 second. Well, then, everything we hear from the opposition side is just about fairness and that it will be better for people because it's more like being fair with them and understanding that they can take part in a political movement of their country. But actually, we have all the same on our side because these people still have this right because we don't make it like charged. We don't ask people to pay us $20 just to take part in voting and deciding the destiny of their country. We still understand that it's something governmental that we suggest them to take part in it in case they are qualified enough. And we don't make like a selective thing with those people can vote, but those cannot, because the only thing we do is telling that you have to know some things to be able to do something. And as my teammate said, it is the same that letting people who know how to drive actually giving them a driving lessons. And it works all the same because when we understand that something is too important, when it can damage other people, when it can bring some harm to them, we can like strict and let only some group of people who are intelligent enough, who have required skill to do anything. And that's the way we justify this thing. And actually, from the other side, we suggest three criteria to adjudicator. The first one is quality of candidates, because the opposition side doesn't really show the way candidates show and care about their people who gonna elect them, and they don't show why their motivation will be that good as on our side. When we say that we at least make this group of people who elect their president, for example, and they at least qualified in the understanding how the state works on a minimum level, which also is required like at school level, because school subjects aren't that hard. It's something basic for everyone, so everyone can understand it and get into it. We don't say that, for example, exam maturalny in Poland is something extremely hard in case you want to get into university, and we still understand that we acquire this skill just to be getting in some social group. And it's the same thing is the second criteria is awareness of people and choices they do. We propose that in case we support this motion, people will do better choices because they will be aware of what they're doing. They will be understanding because, okay, it's a presumption that in case people get into it, in case people gonna pass this exam and they actually pass it, they do better choices for the reasons that they at least aren't so easily to be deceived because they don't do choices to some populistic views that will just gives them a lot of promises and doesn't keep any. But in case they really do it and they study it as something basic that is obligatory or not obligatory, it's up to people, but they it's just like they can easily reach it, and it's not something limited from a common person in each state, and therefore it's really easy to them to do it. The third criteria is actual performance of the state, because we believe that in case people really choose good candidates and these candidates do what they promise to do and they don't make any corruption mechanisms and they do what they have to do operating the state, we believe that it will bring better performance of the whole state, because this politician will be understanding that in case he will do something wrong, these people would get into it and understand that maybe it's not so clear mechanism. Maybe we have to do a revolution against this politician because he's doing something wrong. And this political awareness is actually a good thing for the whole state, for every person who is living in it, for the reason this person is able to understand what's going on, to get into it maybe deeper and get the understanding when this person is in a danger or not. And therefore, we understand that our benefits are more stronger than one harm of the opposition, which is said that we have to do everything fair, because is something we require, but we also understand that there is nothing harmful for people to pass an exam because it will make their life better, and we don't think that it's probable that they will begin a revolution for the reason that it's something better for them, and they will not be against it for the reason that they will just understand that it's actually something in which dependence on which their life depends on, for the reason that they also aren't good with their co-citizens doing some weird shit and electing people they don't want to see in the government side. Thank you.
Thank you for your speech. Now I would like to welcome the last speaker of today's debate, the whip speaker of the opposition. You have 5 minutes to complete your speech.
All right. So the points all my colleagues today have said, after analyzing them carefully, I I really believe that our points are not being heard by the government side. They're completely ignoring the biggest problem at hand, which is actually providing people with their right to vote. What they don't understand is that what they might believe to a simple, harmless exam might actually be a lot of trouble to some people. And those people do deserve the right to vote as well, because they as well pay the tax to actually make this government be able to run. So, since they are taxpayers, they deserve to have their right to vote. They deserve to have a decision in the making of this country, or the direction this country is headed in. An example given by one of my colleagues over here was that this exam is like a driver's test, but I don't think so. Those are two very different those are two very different what's it called situations. A driver's test is needed to understand that this person is safe to drive. However, a political awareness exam is just there to basically see if this person's political awareness is that much, which
POY,
really this sorry.
POY, point of information.
Yes, go on.
Actually, the example of driving lessons was only explanation of how decisions which is harmful can actually affect the other lives. And it's the same with the state, because state decisions can also affect other lives.
All right. So the thing is, a driver's license is not a necessity or like an immediate right people need. It's not that people are absolutely. Of course, it's needed by certain people. It's as I would say, it's not an absolute necessity. It's not an absolute right. However, being able to like take part in the country's what's it called upcoming is very important, and everyone should have the right as long as they are paying the tax. So what I'm saying is that a taxpayer's rights are not should not be taken away, and examples like a driver's license compared to let's say a political awareness exam is to me kind of uh, how would I put it, irrelevant, because they are not the same situations. They are extremely different situations uh, to me, or I would consider to any person that actually thinks about it, because uh, it's absolutely out of the question to compare the two. And other than that, I would just say that the government really needs to pay more attention to to what we have to offer, and to understand that they said that the revolutions might not be such a bad thing, but they're extremely bad. They're extremely bad. They are harming us. They are making us less economically stable, which causes some people's quality of life to go down, and that's not something we should be having. We are trying to absolutely avoid that. That is exactly why the situation has come up in the first place. And with that note, I will end my speech. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Now we will end our today's debate.